Hello and welcome to the Arms Society. I am your host, John Smith. First of all, we're going to start with a couple of disclaimers. I have no company affiliation, no sponsorship. Any opinion that I give is an honest opinion of my own. If it's not, then I will express otherwise. And any product you see today may or may not be personally owned. I will not confirm such just for privacy reasons. Today, the two things that we're going to be looking at and comparing are going to be the Smith & Wesson M&P EZ9 mm and the Sig Sauer P365 SAS-C. So first we're going to start off with the Smith & Wesson Military and Police Shield EZ9 mm. We're going to start off nice and safe. I've got that safety on. We're going to go ahead and drop that magazine. Unload it. The round came out the bottom here. Then we're going to turn that safety off. Dip the trigger. We're going to just do the same for this right here. This is an M&P 2.0 full size. Magazine empty. Chambers empty. Dead the trigger. Now this is the larger version of the EZ. This is the original 2.0 series. This has been around for a while. And some of the main differences you see, the 2.0 doesn't have that grip safety or that manual safety. You can get 2.0s with manual safeties. The EZ is part of the 2.0 series, in fact, so it does have this manual safety. It is marked 2.0 on the slide, and it does have this grip safety, which is unique to the EZ models. And you can't actuate it unless you have that grip safety depressed. I can't shoot it. Turn that safety on, can't shoot it. You have to have both safeties disengaged and then click. Very nice, easy trigger pull. And that's the main difference between these two. This one is a striker fired gun, just like most Glocks, CZs, and whatnot you see nowadays. There's no hammer on the back right here. And even though this one doesn't have a hammer on the back, it is actually a hammer fired gun. The hammer is on the inside right here. So when that hammer comes forward after pulling the trigger, it hits the back of the round and sets it off, and that makes for a really nice, smooth trigger pull. Now, time to get on to its namesake. This is called the EZ for a very good reason, and that's because it's easy to use. It's designed for smaller framed people. This is the 9mm version. It's slightly bigger than the 380. However, it is functionally the same. It's slightly harder to use, but definitely not by much. This grip safety, there's virtually no pressure at all. If you have a good solid grip, you're not even going to notice it. Thumb safety is super easy to manage. The slide is the big feature. So easy to use. If you have a smaller frame or you struggle with larger pistols because you don't quite have your technique down, this is going to offer you no issues whatsoever. The takedown is very easy, but this isn't a tutorial video, so I'm going to skip that for now in the interest of time. And another highlight is the magazine. So here we have the 2.0's 17 round magazine. This is a more traditional type mag, whereas you take the round, boom, and you load it in like that. You push it down and back. Now the EZ magazine has these wings on the side. These wings are much like a 22 magazine. Put it down on the table, push these wings down, pop that in. Oh, it's so easy. Let me tell you, even as an experienced shooter, this is just a joy to use. Even though I don't have any trouble with these, this is by far the easiest magazine I've ever loaded. It surpasses a lot of 22 magazines. So in general, if you struggle with having enough strength to be able to operate a full-size pistol or even a concealed pistol, this has you covered. That's the namesake. That's what it was designed for. As far as reliability, I've had no issues with it whatsoever. It's not uncommon for some guns to come out and come fresh out of the box and they have some reliability issues. Or when they first release, they're going to have some issues. That happens a lot of the time. Don't freak out. Give it a little bit. It's going to work out. But this, it didn't come out with any issues whatsoever as far as I heard. And shooting supports that. It's a very reliable weapon. I've had no issues with it whatsoever, no matter what ammo I use. The maintenance is also very simple either. Like I said, I'm not going to take the slide apart, but it's as simple as actuating, pulling it back, actuating this lever, and then when you push it back forward, the slide will come off. It's a little finicky to get on. When you get on, make sure you're not pressing that grip safety, otherwise you're not going to be able to get the slide on. I'm going to dead that trigger again. For its viability, this is something that's a lot of carry guns have a lot of scrutiny about. Having less than 10 rounds in a magazine is a concern for some people, but personally it's not for me. Realistically, you're going to be using 5 rounds or less. You'll almost never have to reload. It's going to be at 7 yards or less, and usually it's actually at that face-to-face, like you're not even going to have time to pick up your sights type of thing. In general, this is perfectly viable as a carry gun. It's small enough to be concealable. As you can see here, I have a Sticky brand pocket holster. This stays in your pocket. It doesn't move. The gun is a little bit on the heavy side for carrying with basketball shorts, for example. However, if you're carrying like belted pants, this isn't going to be a problem at all. And the holster actually conceals the fact that it's a gun. The grip isn't too long to manage. It's probably not going to stick out of your pocket depending on how big your pants are. I'm a fairly above average guy, so some pants it sticks out, some it doesn't. You have to make those accommodations, of course. As for the cost, well, this is another plus to its viability. This non-COVID price, because there is a worldwide ammo and firearm shortage because of the COVID pandemic and recent administration changes, this usually comes in at about $400 non-COVID. During COVID, this one was picked up I want to say in February for around $480, and that's after tax. That's after everything was said and done. $480, you get the gun, 2 magazines, kind of flimsy cardboard box that you're probably never going to use again. But in general, I mean, all around, it is a good pistol. It's a good casual shooting pistol. It's big enough to be comfortable to shoot. Like I said, I have those above average hands. I got those big old ape hands. Anyone with average size hands can handle this, no problem. That recoil. There's a big problem with concealed carry pistols typically, that they're not very comfortable to shoot, especially smaller ones. But this one is just big enough to make it comfortable. The recoil impulse is extremely good because the 2.0 is actually pretty well known for being able to reduce recoil. So for what it is, it doesn't kick all that hard. This is something that you could easily pick up and shoot. It's something you can learn. It's a very traditional pistol style. It's not going to fail you. I can assure you that. A lot of people like to say, oh, Glock only, SIG only. It's like, stop it. Please. These Smith & Wessons, they work just fine in my experience. Some people have problems, some people don't. I've been shooting these since I must have been 10 years old when I started, so we're talking a long time. And M&Ps I have never, ever, ever had a failure on an M&P except for the one light strike I had with the M&P 9, and it's not failed since then. So a broken-in M&P, no problems, especially this one. Next we have the Sig Sauer Pistola 365 SIG anti-snag compensated model. So we're going to start out as we do, pull that into the holster, take that magazine out, and we're going to unload it. First of all, we're going to compare it to its larger counterpart, which is not exactly a direct copy. This isn't, I don't have access to a Sig Sauer P365, so this is a SIG 250. It has roughly the same frame, so I've been told, although it is a double action only hammer fired 40 caliber, but it works perfectly for this because it's so similar. First of all, this is obviously not anti-snag. SAS stands for SIG anti-snag, and what that basically means is that the edges are smoothed out so it doesn't get caught in any clothing or your pockets or anything like that. So if you notice, it doesn't have a front sight. It has a rear sight, and this is called the FT Bullseye rear sight. So if you notice in here, this is a fiber optic insert. It has a little green thing in there, and at the back, so you can see the green dot. It means your sight picture's off. Bring it up. There you go. Now you're aiming correctly. This is perfectly sufficient for the range that this is intended for. We're talking like 10 yards or less type of thing. I always advocate that you shoot at 10 yards at minimum, just so you're prepared for any self-defense incident. It also has compensator ports. The C in the name, the SAS-C, stands for these little ports in the barrel. As you can see right here, it's on the slide, and inside there, you got little holes. And this is to reduce recoil, if that wasn't obvious. They don't actually make this version anymore. They make the non-compensated version still, which I can't say I've ever had experience with, but it's virtually identical except for that barrel and slide. As for ease of use, this thing is easy-ish. Everything definitely feels a slight bit sloppier. It's got a bit more squish to it. It's got these front slide serrations. I wouldn't recommend charging it like that because it's relatively heavy. This slide definitely gives you some resistance once you get to about here. What you want to do, generally, especially if you're smaller framed or not as experienced, come over the top, do that. Magazine release, relatively positive. It's not a big deal. Drops like it never wanted to be there in the first place. Not as positive as that easy, but it's still perfectly sufficient. It is recessed, so you're not going to hit it accidentally. The one thing that holds this gun back, the magazine. This gun was designed around the magazine, but there's not a lot of room at the bottom of it. So theoretically, it's a 10-round magazine, but don't be surprised at all if you can only get 9 rounds in there, because me with my big old gorilla hands, I'm going to go on a limb and say you're going to need a speed loader. If you try to load it with a slide forward, which you can do on just about any gun, but that took a significant bit of force. So you want to keep in mind that there are some quirks about this pistol where if you're smaller framed or you find operating pistols a little bit difficult because you're just not a big gorilla like me, then you want to make sure you can train through those different things. As far as shooting it, well, it's a SIG. It shoots like a SIG, but it shoots like a small SIG, so it is snappy. Then again, concealed carry pistols, the idea behind them is, smooth shooting is just a bonus. The main issue is concealability, magazine capacity, and this fantastical myth we call stopping power, which I'm not going to get into right now. However, as far as, even though it is snappy, these compensator ports do help a lot. So don't expect a super duper smooth shooting experience, but it is perfectly sufficient. You can shoot this and not have too much trouble. It's not gonna absolutely demolish you. So I'd say, it's good enough. It's a good enough shooter. I would take this to the range and have a good time with it, to be honest with you. By choice. As far as reliability, no problems whatsoever. None at all. It cycles everything we put through it. Not had any issues with the slide getting caught or any double feeds or stovepipes. No worries whatsoever. So as far as its viability being a carry pistol, look, this is a 10-round magazine. You can get them up to 14 rounds with an extended base plate on the bottom there, but that kind of takes away its concealability. But 10 rounds is perfectly enough. This, as a concealed carry gun, it's great. It's a good self-defense gun. When you're in the moment and your adrenaline's rushing, you're not going to notice all the little quirks that make this pistol a little harder to use. Now, as for the cost, that's another thing that holds it back just a little bit. But it's still good for a Sig Sauer. It's kind of what you expect. So non-COVID price, you can find these for anywhere between like $500 to $600. For COVID, I've generally seen them for $500 to $700. This one, I believe, was about $611 after tax and everything like that. It's still affordable, not as much as the EZ, but it's still, if you have a decent budget aside and you want something a little more, you want that great German engineering, this is a perfectly good option for you. So, at the end of the day, in my opinion, which one is better? Yes. But I'm giving this slight edge to the EZ9. First of all, that magazine is unbelievably easy to load. For a 9mm, this is the easiest 9mm mag I've ever had to load. This one is probably one of the toughest. And for a newer shooter or a smaller framed person, this is going to be a big detractor. This may hold more rounds, but this holds enough. And this loads just so much easier. It is unbelievable what they did with that magazine. As far as the size too, this is generally a larger pistol. It's easier to shoot in its larger size. And the shootability, because of that, is just better. I don't know exactly what they did with making this slide so easy to use while making the recoil impulse so light and smooth. I don't know how they did it. It's amazing. I am nothing short of amazed at the performance of the EZ9. As far as that goes as well, we have safety features here. I'm still giving the edge to the EZ9 because for a lot of newer shooters, they like having that manual safety. And I know for something like pocket carry, having a manual safety on there definitely at least makes me feel better, so that you can't accidentally shoot yourself in the leg if you don't intend to, which I don't know why you would intend to do that, but then again, I don't know your life. So in general, it has the manual thumb safety, it has that grip safety, and it has an internal drop safety, and I'm pretty sure 365 just has an internal drop safety. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that's all it has. You need to be a lot more careful with this in order to make sure you don't end up shooting yourself in the leg when you're drawing from the holster or just generally handling it. This one is much, much easier for a beginner to mold onto because it has those safety features and it teaches you, it has that cushion room. The EZ is generally, I think, a lot better for beginners because it has these external safeties so that you have that extra cushion to make sure that if you screw up the muzzle action trigger rules of firearms, there's a decent chance that you're not going to end up shooting your buddy in the knee, which he is going to appreciate. And then there's also the cost. Especially for a newer shooter, generally you're not looking to spend a bunch of money. And don't let anyone tell you that you have to. You don't. Because this right here is a perfectly sufficient pistol, and its COVID price comes in below the non-COVID price for the SIG. And that's pretty on par for SIGs. SIGs are generally for people for more discerning taste who like that good German engineering. However, this is, I think, far more worth it. I think, in general, the performance of the M&P EZ is better than the 365, even though they're both reliable, and in a moment of stress, really that performance is not going to matter. In general, just as a casual, take to the range and shoot it pistol, I think the EZ9 is far more worth it, especially when you factor in the cost. In general though, I think if you wanted to improve this 365, make it a little more accessible for beginners, fix this magazine. Everything else you can train through. I've been messing with firearms for a long time, well over a decade, and I struggled loading this magazine. That needs to be fixed. This absolutely is something that needs to be fixed in future generations. As far as the usability, I think the perfect carry gun would probably be the SIG & Wesson 365 EZ9. Take these two, cross their size a little bit, give it some of those optional safety features that the EZ comes with, give it that ease of use, give it the magazine capacity of the SIG while making it much easier to load. Please give it the positive controls of the EZ9 while keeping the slimline nature of the 365. I personally prefer the physical sights, but maybe you could offer it in both ways, just like the SIG comes now. The 365 does actually come with the physical sights, depending on the model you get. But, you know, of course, that's just another optional feature. The ideal carry gun would be combining these two. I'm not going to lie to you. At the end of the day, I have to give the edge to the EZ9. It is just a wonderful pistol to use. Alright, well thank you for tuning into the Arms Society. I hope my opinions and experience have been useful to you. Remember, any recommendation that I make may not be the right recommendation for you, so any determinations that I come to might not be the determination that you do. Of course, get out there, talk to gun shops, fiddle with the guns, maybe rent them out if you can, and remember to always, always, always carry a gun with you. This is a scary world these days, and you need to make sure you're prepared. Everybody, have an excellent rest of your day. Cheers.